1928. Amelia Earhart becomes the first woman to cross the Atlantic Ocean in a plane. Walt Disney introduces the first Mickey Mouse animated cartoon to the world. Scientist Sir Alexander Fleming discovers one of the most important medical findings of the century, penicillin. And one Karola Ruth Siegel, a.k.a. Dr. Ruth Westheimer, is born to proud parents Julius Siegel and Irma Hanauer.
Born on June 4th, 1928, Ruth spent her early years in the company of her loving family at their home in Frankfurt, Germany. Her fondest memories were those of attending synagogue with her father, or simply spending time with her mother and grandmother, Selma. However, on November 9th, 1938, Crystal Night marked the tragic beginning for the Siegels and millions of other German Jewish families. With the future looking bleak under Nazi rule, Ruth was one of a handful of children chosen to flee Germany for refuge in Switzerland. Living in a Swiss children's home, Ruth made the best of her situation, despite missing her family terribly. Her vibrancy and warmth allowed her to make friends easily with the other children with whom she loved to share her knowledge. By the end of the war, Ruth had spent 6 years in Switzerland. Like so many others, the war had left her displaced and without family. Along with other surviving Jews, she arrived in Palestine in the hopes of rebuilding a new life and nation. Soon after her arrival, Jewish Palestine came under siege from neighboring Arab states. In an effort to do her part, Ruth joined the Jewish underground army, the Haganah, trained as a scout and sharpshooter. Seriously injured by a bomb blast, Ruth eventually recovered. After the formation of Israel, Ruth moved to Paris where she attended psychology courses. Upon receiving a $1,500 restitution from the German government, she embarked on the American dream and relocated to New York City. America embraced Dr. Ruth with open arms. Within 48 hours of her arrival, Ruth had won a scholarship to study sociology at the New School. She juggled learning English, taking courses, and working as a housemaid. With a full schedule, her life was about to become even busier as she journeyed into motherhood. She gave birth to her daughter Miriam in 1957, and then to her son Joel, soon after marrying the love of her life, Fred Westheimer, in 1961. Ruth had finally reestablished the family that she had lost years ago. Happily balancing life as a wife, mother, and teacher, Ruth earned a master's in sociology and soon began a new expedition for which she would become world famous. It was the 1960s, and while sexuality and free love was everywhere, the information was not. While working at Planned Parenthood, Ruth identified that need and began a journey to provide it. With a newfound passion for sex education, Ruth went back to school and earned a doctorate in education from Columbia University. She started teaching sex ed and soon opened her own practice while frequently lecturing on sexuality. WYNY radio began to take notice.
Good evening. This is Dr. Ruth Westheimer.
In 1980, Ruth was given her own 15-minute show, and so the phenomenon began. Ruth's show was so popular that it was extended to 1 hour. Listeners went from shocked to hooked by the tiny woman with an enormous personality. Ruth's fame was quickly growing international. She starred in her own Lifetime television show, Good Sex, while making various appearances on television programs, commercials, and even feature films. Viewers couldn't get enough of the little Jewish grandmother who was responsible for bringing a new, open approach to sexuality. She's also authored dozens of books, made CDs, written for various newspaper columns, and has a large presence on the web. She's now devoting more time to documentary filmmaking and has looked at topics such as the Druze and Bedouin women. She's currently teaching at both Princeton and Yale. Throughout her lifetime, the 4'7" ball of energy has worn many hats. She has held the title of Holocaust survivor, freedom fighter, educator, wife, mother, sexual pioneer and icon, Grammy nominee, and media phenomenon. At 80 years old, she shows no signs of slowing down or hanging up her reins as the world's premier and leading sex education expert.